we have real problems in this country with opioid addiction. I was the lead Democrat author of the Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act, which both changed the nature of the response to this with a lot more emphasis on recovery and prevention, and also opened up significant funding that has flowed through to states to help the groups that are helping people through their addiction and through their recovery. At this point, as best I can tell, the Trump funding freeze is blocking dollars that would otherwise be flowing to treatment and recovery groups around the country. In some cases, it's not so much that they're being told no, it's that they can't get a straight answer. And the confusion could well be just a deliberate fog to obscure the freeze. The lawsuits that are proceeding will help clarify that. But in the meantime, I think it's notable when we're dealing here with this issue to understand that the Trump administration has unilaterally frozen funds that flow through to this problem. Our community health centers in Rhode Island are seeing funds similarly either blocked or fogged so that they can't get an answer that the funds are cleared. And it's through community health centers that a lot of people get their treatment as they deal with addiction and recovery issues. So I hope that we can get this freeze issue resolved now that two courts have found that it is illegal. In the same way that the Trump administration doesn't seem to respect the power of the purse and Congress, it is not clear that they respect the power of the courts to decide what the law is. So we will have to see, but we are clearly outside of constitutional bounds at this point, and people who count on addiction and recovery services are in the target hairs of this. We have agreed, I think, as a committee, and we've done some pretty good work together as a committee, Republicans and Democrats alike, to try to put pressure on drug sales that come via the internet and through social media. So it's disturbing to me that President Trump pardoned an individual who ran a drug-selling dark web site. He also had some murder for hire accusations, just to add a little bit of color to what a decent person he was. I think the place where we can make the most progress, as Ranking Member Durbin mentioned earlier, is with Section 230. I applaud the litigation that is going forward. I applaud the lawyers who've been able to negotiate the various hurdles that Congress has erected to the American system of justice having its role in dealing with these deaths and with these tragedies. I think there's bipartisan support for repealing Section 230. I am on for that, and I think the sooner we do that, the better we are. It is simply wrong for these enormously powerful social media entities to have rights to do harm to Americans without accountability that no other entity shares. So they've blown any excuse to maintain that privileged position with their behavior, in my view. So let's go for 230. And with respect to enforcement, reassigning FBI, DOJ, and DEA agents off this task, I don't think is a good idea. We'll find out more about how many were reassigned. Cutting FinCEN dollars, I think, is a big mistake. And I'll close with a question to Dr. Farfan. It's been my experience as a prosecutor for many years that we put a lot of attention into interdicting distribution networks for drugs. By comparison, we put a very small effort into interdicting the financial return of that money, the hiding of that money in international accounts and international dark money banking and covert other systems. What more should we be doing to get after the financing of these cartels? And is the gun traffic back to them part of the payment to them for the drugs that we try to interdict coming in?
And we are out of time, so if you can keep your response brief. Thank you.
Well, customarily, as long as the question is asked before the clock runs out, the witness gets to answer it.
Thank you. So in terms of the illicit flows, certainly there's, because money laundering takes place across jurisdictions, it requires also cooperation. So the best cases that we have seen between, for instance, Mexico and the United States of dismantling money laundering operations had to do with working together between the two governments. Now, I understand this is not easily done, but these are the most effective cases of money laundering. Certainly, firearms trafficking is part of that. There's a clear notion that drugs normally come from the South and firearms and money flow from the United States to Mexico. And again, there's a linkage between these criminal markets. And if we want to save lives by tackling the fentanyl supply, then there should also be paying attention to money and firearms.